quite a few videos back, I opened a black poly bag and revealed Solitaire #1 from the Ultraverse. That's Malibu Comics. And I enjoyed issue #1 so much that I actually went out and I tracked down 3 more issues of Solitaire here that thoroughly entertained me. Man, this is a really, really good comic book that people don't know about. And it's super cheap. Super cheap. You can. I got them for, I think, $1.25 each at one of my local comic shops. I couldn't find them at the one I regularly go to with the 50-cent back issue bin. So I had to go across the river to Portland, Oregon, and pick these gems up. And gems they indeed are. To kind of describe Solitaire, sort of a mix between Batman and the Punisher with a little bit of a sci-fi bend on it. We have a character who, let's see, okay, so let me start with this, okay? So Solitaire is basically trying to stop crime in Hollywood, in the Los Angeles area, and it really, really feels like LA in these comics. And I think that is one of the things that really appeals to me, is just how authentic it feels. And I'll get into that a little bit more as we go through this. But Solitaire, basically, to kind of define the character, I want you to imagine that Bruce Wayne's father had lived. He had never been killed, and instead Bruce Wayne's dad was a total degenerate scumbag who was selling drugs, who was killing people, doing whatever it took to climb his way to the top. And when Bruce Wayne found out, that would be Solitaire in this case, when he found out what his father was up to, it devastated him, and he wanted to take his father down. But, you know, unfortunately his father was so powerful that he wasn't going to let his son take him down, caught on to his kid and stopped him. And I'm going to kind of fast forward here to issue #4 just so I can kind of give you a little bit more origin on Solitaire, because this is where they really start to reveal it. Is he was going to tell a reporter about his father's evil deeds, but when he showed up to meet the reporter, he saw the lights of the ambulance, he saw the blood, the reporter, and a dozen innocents. The police and press said it was a gang war. Nicholas, that's our guy Nicholas Lone, he's Solitaire. He knew better. He knew the truth. Even before he felt the hand of Jin, his father's bodyguard. You thought you were doing the right thing. This blood is on your hands. You don't know what quality of man your father is. Go against him and you will kill more people. Let him do his work, and not so many will die. I have lived many lives, Master Nicholas. I see that life is short, and it is mean, but it can also be lovely. With what your father can give you, you should live it to the fullest. So yeah, a hooker with some champagne, right? That's living it to the fullest right here, baby. But Nicholas is just like so depressed by it that he decides, and this is not a comic book for little kids. This is definitely 12 or 13 and up, depending on the children in your family. That's up to you. I read everything before I give it to the kids in my family. Nicholas saw one way to get revenge on his father: pull his millions out of investments, wander the world, and waste himself. Blissed out on opium in a Bangkok whorehouse. That would show his father. But a funny thing happened on the way to perdition. A greedy thug with too much power tried to shake down the bank, and people were hurt, people were scared, and Nicholas found himself doing nothing, not trying to save anybody, not even himself. Then a hero burst in to save the day, and Nicholas just didn't care. That happened in hard case #1. So he decided to just like go drinking and driving and just throw himself off a cliff, which is what he does. We're going to fast forward here a little bit. He wakes up. So obviously you see the burning hand, and he wakes up and his father is standing over him. Anton Lone is his father. And explains that, you know, with all of his billions, he was able to purchase nanotechnology to fill Nicholas's body and mend him. So now Nicholas has these nanobots that basically mend his skin. So imagine like Wolverine's mutant healing factor, but it's scientific technology that is actually healing him. And that was when Nicholas realized what his purpose in life was. He'd been given the gift of unwanted life. so that he could serve the man he most hated. His father intends him to go to work for him. Beginning now, he would use that life, use what his father had given him, but he'd use it to stop his father and others like him, to protect the victims of their kind. So basically, that is the best way to sum up Solitaire. That is his origin, and what really in the first issue, if you go back and you watch that video, you will see what I enjoyed about it was the authenticity of the whole LA vibe. Even in the early 90s, you know, it's actually surprising how well this is held up, because in the age of Harvey Weinstein and Me Too movement, that kind of played into the first issue in a way, with a very powerful elite, like almost you could call him like, you know, a gang warlord in LA who was basically keeping like teenagers as sex slaves. And Solitaire, of course, stops him in that first issue, and it really presented the world in a unique way that you don't typically see in comic books. And it really compelled me to pick up a few more issues. And when I saw how cheap they were, I just said, well, I have to do this. This is interesting to me. So, you know, $4 later, I got, you know, 3 more awesome comics. And I'll take you through part 2 here really great, because it takes place in Disneyland. It's not called Disneyland, of course, but you know it's Disneyland. And he's got like this chick with this bow and arrow, and he's basically like trying to figure out what's going on here. Look at that beautiful splash page, huh? That's what I enjoy. Jeff Johnson's pencils on this are fantastic. Barbara Kalberg did an amazing job inking it, and Food Hammer, don't ask me, like Food Hammer, whoever you are, I really, really, really enjoy your colors. So he basically, you know, goes on the Jungle Cruise ride, right? He's jumping around fighting this chick with this arrow, and he gets her. He's trying to find a bomb that has been laid out. And the chick is like, she's basically like this cult of moon worshippers. And it's interesting how cults play into Solitaire. And now you fast forward here 25 years, and you have these sex cults in Los Angeles that we're hearing about, like the Allison Mack Nexium sex cult. And so it just kind of, it's interesting that it has such a contemporary vibe. Here they are fighting on, you know, like what is not Cinderella's castle, right? And he always, you know, it's all about Solitaire's feud with his father, and everything's kind of leading up to that. He just wants to know where the bomb is, and the chick just keeps pointing to the moon. She's a nut job. And you can see, like, there's the people mover, right? We are obviously at Disneyland, even though it's not called Disneyland. That's okay. It's Looney Castle, not Cinderella's castle. It's called Looney Castle. And this whole comic book just is so well drawn and so incredibly well written by Gerard Jones. You know, I've become a fan of his writing, and I'm going to track down other comic books that he's worked on that might have had the freedom to do what he did in this. You know, you're not going to necessarily find that type of freedom at Marvel or at DC back in the 90s, but independent publishers like Malibu and Image Comics, they were making comic books that were for teenagers, that were not for, you know, 8-year-olds or 10-year-olds. This is clearly for 12 or 13 and up, I would say. Obviously, they talk about whorehouses and things and drugs and all this stuff in a more complicated way than drugs are bad like you typically would see in a Marvel issue. Here, drugs are bad still, but we have a main character who is actually going to go live in an opium den in a whorehouse. So that's a little bit of complexity that a kid is not going to understand. And the last thing you as an adult want to do is explain what a whorehouse and heroin is to a child. So he finds like the leader of the moon cult, and they fight on the people mover, right? Like, there's the race cars in Disneyland, and it's just so authentic LA County to the core here, Orange County to the core. I just couldn't help but appreciate what they had done. And this is Punisher? No. So like this would maybe be like the Peter Pan ride, like they're, you know, you've got these pirate ships that are flying around in the air. That's not actually any ride at Disneyland that I'm familiar with, but it kind of has that Peter Pan type of vibe, right? And he just wants to figure out what's going on. And it just keeps going like that. As he begins to track down what's going on. This is the Curse of the Monkey Woman. Oh, Terminator 2, the arcade game. This is dope. Totally great cabinet, and it was made also for the Super Nintendo. This is kind of interesting. There's like this monkey cult, and I know that kind of sounds ridiculous, but it works. It works really well. And he's just totally great. He's totally the perfect blend of the Punisher and Batman, and the backstory and the way it's revealed, the way they bait you in, the way they keep wanting to get you to that next comic. They give you just enough of the backstory to keep you interested, and the art, as you can see, is just absolutely phenomenal. This might be the most enjoyable non-image comic I have ever read. No joke. I can't believe it came from Malibu. I was not a fan of Malibu as a kid. I thought it was kind of dorky, but I am so happy that I stumbled across this. Solitaire is only 12 issues, and I think that it's quite possible it was only intended to be 12 issues, maybe, because it seems like when I looked it up on mycomicshop.com, because I'm having trouble finding issues past issue number 4, I'm probably gonna have to get them online. This chick has a friggin' monkey that's crowing out of her back, and they actually reveal her origin too. So it's not just like a wonky thing. It's something that is revealed that makes sense in the context of the story. There's a lot of Haitian voodoo that's also occurring in this comic book, which I like a lot. I'm very much into things like that in Santeria. I don't mean I'm into them as in I practice, voodoo worship. I'm not cutting off chicken heads, in a back room anywhere here at the house. But it's a fascinating thing. As well it should be if you're into comic books. Black magic, woo, spooky. And so he's got to basically fight the monkey woman, and it turns out that she has, there's old Nightman. Don't worry, this doesn't have anything to do with the story. They just throw Nightman in here just to try to tease you to buy some. I'm not buying it, don't worry. I'm saying that more for myself than for you guys. So, he tracks down the monkey woman cult and is just trying to piece together what's going on, and it turns out that the monkey cult has actually gotten a hold, this is very fascinating, they've gotten a hold of nuclear bombs that Russia installed in Cuba back in the 1960s. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis with a good old JFK blowing away? What else do we have to say? We have to say that Solitaire is a really interesting comic that is filled with a variety of things I think every comic book fan likes, whether that's nanotechnology and science fiction, whether that's voodoo and black magic, whether that's vigilantes taking action to rid the streets of crime, whether that's really vibrant art that's well drawn, well inked, and well colored, whether it's just a quality story that keeps you interested. It never takes the audience for granted. It never talks down to the audience. It treats the audience as an intelligent human being. It doesn't get, there's a lot of words here, but it doesn't ever get too wordy. All of this is pushing a plot, nonstop there. Either Gerard Jones pushes a plot or he develops a character. And that is the only two things he does in his writing, and he is masterful at it. To the point where I'm not going to just pick up issue 5 and 6 next. I'm going to pick up the whole run. I'm going to get all the way through issue 12 with this, because I need to know how this ends, and I have confidence in the writer and the artist that they are going to deliver a quality product each and every time. So the bad guys get away on this boat with the nukes, and he doesn't stop him. This is not that explosion. This is Jin, his father's bodyguard, causes an explosion. And then he finds this cute chick here who was the voodoo monkey cult was going to sacrifice her on top of the nuclear bombs because her blood would purify the bombs or whatever, right? Which is cool. And so his how does he refer to it? Another lost soul looking for a place to hide, a place to belong, a way to make amends for past misdeeds. His organization grows. He has people all over the city, whether, you know, it's like a detective or whether it's, you know, like just a rat who sells bomb manufacturing stuff to other bad guys, and Solitaire forces him to give up information. So you do get a real solid detective bend, like with Batman, or like with the Punisher in ways. Kind of a neo-noir sort of a vibe here. And I couldn't be happier with this comic. I could not be happier with this comic. And this is actually great. This is Jack Kirby passed away February 6th, 1994. And here in this Malibu comic, number 4, which is March 94, they have all of their different artists write up something about how Jack Kirby influenced them. And this was really fun to read. It was really neat. And shows how respected and appreciated Jack Kirby has been throughout the generations, and how his influence is going to be felt in comic books for as long as comic books are around. And hopefully that is much longer than the social justice warriors at Marvel Comics intend. And that is why you out there watching this video need to do what? You need to hashtag move the needle when you buy a good comic. You need to take a picture of that comic book or make a video of that comic book like I'm doing now. And you hashtag move the needle and you share that with other fans, people who support Comicsgate. And we are going to change this industry. We are going to make comics great again. And one of the ways we can do that is the way that I am attempting to do that in my way, is by sharing old comic books that did move the needle when I was a kid. Or maybe they didn't move the needle when I was a kid. Somehow they were looked over. That does happen, you know. How many great movies have we all seen that just did not end up a hit at the theater because they were stacked up against Avengers Infinity War. And so you didn't go see that other movie. But then, you know, 6 months later, you rented it at the Redbox and you're like, man, this was great. I wish I would have saw this in the theater. That is what Solitaire is, absolutely. And I'm going to be honest here, it's so good that it makes me want to find other comics from the Ultraverse. The one I'm mainly interested in is Mantra. Actually, I think it was in this one, yes. I'm interested in Mantra. She's like this sexy chick here. The black is not making any sense to me on her face. Usually you see her face. This is the one that intrigues me the most. There was another one on here that... Sludge is almost getting me. I know that I can pick up Sludge number 1 for 50 cents at my local comic shop. If you out there read any Ultraverse comics, anything from Malibu, and there is something here you think I should give a chance to, please let me know in the comments below. I am very interested in discovering more about the Ultraverse because of Solitaire, specifically because of Solitaire. I'm so happy I gave this a chance. I'm so happy. I thought it was going to, honestly, in the last video regarding Solitaire where we opened up the black poly bag, and I just did it as a gag because it's like, oh God, how often do you get to open a poly bag nowadays? I don't know, do they even do comic books with poly bags with a little card in it or something? That's some fun gimmick to appeal to fans and try to get them to buy that first issue. When was the last time you saw a comic book that was in a poly bag? Tell me in the comments below. I'm very interested to know that. And I did. I thought Solitaire was just going to be a gag video, and it turned out it blew my mind. It blew me away, and it made me go pick up 3 more issues just so I could make sure that the quality was going to continue to be consistent throughout the run. And sure enough, it is. And now, after 4 issues, I'm going to go pick up the remaining 8 issues so that I know the entire story of Solitaire. And I might come back and share that with you guys a month or 2 from now in the future after I pick them up and have a chance to read them. I have so many comics off camera to share with you guys. It's not even funny. I got let me look. Oh, jeez. I have about 150 comics off camera that I'm going to hopefully share with all of you so that we can continue to move the needle and we can continue to promote and propagate Comicsgate and save the comic book industry from these lunatics who have driven down sales to the point where Marvel Comics is, about to go bankrupt, which is why they're leasing out beloved characters like Spider-Man to a rival publisher like IDW. And we can make a difference, people. You, me, Uncle Ethan, Yellow Flash, Umbrella Guy, Tim Lim, Mitch and Elizabeth Breitweiser, Smooth Jazz, Edwin Boyette. We can all make a difference in this world. We can make a difference in the lives of children. We don't just have to hand kids cell phones and say, have fun, kid. You can still hand a kid a comic book and say, read this. This is better than playing a video game, kid. It's a much more enjoyable experience, in my opinion. It's a much more rewarding experience, in my opinion, and it inspires children, hopefully, to get into the arts. And yes, this is art. And, I know in the 20th century, people did not consider this art necessarily. We did. All of us, the comic book fans, all the people in Comicsgate, all the races, all the genders, all the sexualities who love comic books, we consider this art. And thankfully now in the 21st century, I think that opinion is validated much more. And so if you want some good art and a great story, I don't know how many times I have to say it, Solitaire.